Hi everyone. So I'm going to be talking about capitalism, colonialism, and beauty. And essentially, what I'm going to be discussing in this video is how capitalism, economics, finances, and monetary gain of all sorts is what fuels colonialism and colonial hangover, colonial beliefs and ideals in our seemingly post colonial world by perpetuating Western beauty standards. And the reason I have the word beauty in apostrophes here is not because I'm trying to be like, oh, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, stuff like that. No, what I'm trying to say is when discussing beauty, I will not be referring to it as an adjective, as in this person is beautiful. I will be referring to it as what it is, a social construct based on racial bias. So to start off, I think it's important to look at the roots of the perpetuation of Western beauty standards. I think it's important to look at why we, till this day, we as in people, societies in the global south, aim to look more like people from societies in the global west. And I think it can be best summarized in this quote from one of the readings that we did in week 11 of this course, and essentially it says, an extension to Arab anti-black racism is an aspiration to all that our former and current colonizers possess. So even though the writer in this particular article is speaking about Arab societies, this statement can also apply and does apply to all other societies in the global south, such as Asian societies, South Asian societies, like where I'm from. And these unreachable beauty standards have caused generations of people of color to resent and hate themselves for their natural features, such as darker skin, coiled or curly hair, wider and larger bodies, crooked noses, larger noses, and different eye shapes, things like that. And the writer speaks about how anglicized features are associated with superiority. And when something is superior, it's something that everyone will aspire to want. And capitalism essentially identifies a want and tries to commercialize and profit off of it, which is exactly what it has done here. This aspiration to look more Western fuels the commercialization of any and all methods that people of color can find access to get these more anglicized features. So let's take a closer look at some of these features and methods. So skin color is perhaps the first or the most major thing that we as colonized people have noticed is vastly different from our former or even current colonizers. And so in attempts to look more like our former colonizers, people have started, and they have been, and they continue to, bleach their skin, use skin lightening creams such as Fair and Lovely, and some even go as far as to get laser treatment, which is a semi-permanent to permanent way of lightening your skin. This has caused the global skin lightening industry to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 6.23%, which means that from 2020, when it is at $4.74 billion, the industry will grow to $7.68 billion by 2028. Moving on, we have hair, and people in the global south tend to have hair that is darker and isn't always straight. There's people with curly hair, wavy hair, and in black communities especially, there's people with coiled hair and afros and dreads and braids. And these things are frowned down upon because they are not meeting the ideal that is straight hair, light colored hair, blonde hair especially. And because of this, the argument can be made that it is nearly impossible for black women in Western culture to reach the ideal beauty because Western culture deems blackness in and of itself ugly. And you can see this when you look at the media and how it represents, how it picks and chooses which black people they want to represent. So when you look on a magazine cover or on TV screen, you'll see a black person, but that black person will be more often than not lighter skinned. They'll have their hair straightened. Their features will be more anglicized, like they won't have a big nose. They'll have a more anglicized nose, a more Western nose. And an example of this is the actress and model Zendaya, who is a very prominent black actress who you may know from Disney or from Spider-Man. And she's also a model. She's been on a lot of covers. And she herself has acknowledged her privilege as a light-skinned black woman because she's also biracial. Her mother is white. Her skin is lighter than most black people, and she acknowledges the privilege that gives her, and that makes her Hollywood's acceptable version of a black girl. And she hopes to see that change. But in the meantime, she is, as she said, Hollywood's acceptable version of a black girl, and her presence in the media continues to perpetuate Western beauty standards for other black girls. This has caused a lot of people of color, especially women, to find ways to straighten their hair. And one of the most accessible and easiest, although not permanent, way of straightening your hair is using a hair straightener. And this has caused the global hair straightener market to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 4.9%. And by 2026, the market is expected to reach $861.1 million. Another procedure that is used to change our non-Western, non-anglicized features is cosmetic surgery. And cosmetic surgery in and of itself is problematic for 100 reasons that are not related to race, but in this context, it is problematic because the women that are placed on the top of the list of the quote-unquote in need of cosmetic surgery are those that have non-Western features such as crooked noses, larger noses, or monolids, and of course any sign of aging, because we all know that a woman has an expiry date. That's not a quote. Anyways, as can be seen, all of these characteristics are any features that pull a woman away from looking white, and any deviant bodies are those that are not white enough, not young enough, not thin enough, and not abled enough. And as more and more women get these surgeries, they start becoming the ideal for other women of their race. For example, we have started to see a lot of Asian women in media who have gotten plastic surgery done, and now our perception of what Asian women look naturally has morphed into what they now look like post plastic surgery. And this continues to reinforce oppressive beauty norms that vary depending on women's racial and ethnic identity. And the fact that in 2017, an estimated 1.3 million people worldwide underwent double eyelid surgery, and this surgery was most commonly requested in Asia, of all places, is very reflective of the fact that this problem is ongoing despite the fact that we are now in the 21st century. So why do we do this? Just like most of the problems we as societies in the global south face can be linked back to colonialism, this one is obviously because of colonialism, but also we can link it to other things that continue fostering it despite the fact that we're supposedly no longer colonized, such as capitalism. And as you can see, looking like a white person is profitable because being a white person is profitable. For example, in the United States, 87% of the wealth is owned by white households. And for every dollar that a white man earns, a black woman earns just 79 cents. And there's a lot of difference on how much people who are non-white men earn in comparison to white men based on their ethnicity and their race, and also gender and other factors. But race is clearly a factor in this. And although these statistics are from the United States, although these are from the West, as colonized nations, our societies tend to mirror theirs, so they're important to look at. This leads us to the concept of colorism. Colorism is the preference for lighter skin tones even among non-white majority populations.
एक और कॉफी देना।
दूध नहीं है, कॉफी। बेटी की कमाई यूं ही पीते जा रहे हो।
काश हमें एक बेटा होता।
कॉफी उनको देना। एयर होस्टेस।
बदल दे दुनिया आपकी नए फेयर एंड लवली का 4 स्टेप एक्शन। पहला सनस्क्रीन धूप से बचाए, दूसरा चिपचिपाहट घटाए, तीसरा चेहरे से दाग हटाए और चौथा भीतर से निखारे आपको।
बेटा, एक कॉफी मिलेगा?
चेहरे पे दिखे नई तकदीर, नया फेयर एंड लवली।
दाग धब्बे वैसे के वैसे, और कहते हैं सबसे बेस्ट क्रीम। इन पे तो केस कर देना चाहिए। तो कर लो। ये बेस्ट क्रीम नहीं है, और सबूत ये। जरूर जीतोगी अपना पहला केस।
75 लाख से ज्यादा घरों में इस्तेमाल किया गया है, क्योंकि फेयर एंड लवली एंटी मार्क्स क्रीम का असर है दुगना। दाग धब्बे घटाए, निखार लाए, और ये है जांचा, परखा, जाना सच।
मैम, आपका अगला केस
विमेन्स राइट्स के लिए
या कंज्यूमर राइट्स के लिए?
सच के लिए।
फेयर एंड लवली एंटी मार्क्स क्रीम।
So as you can probably tell, even if you don't speak or understand Hindi, is that both of these ads are shown linking obtaining fairer skin with economic success and upward mobility. The use of skin whitening products began to be tied explicitly to outcomes of socioeconomic status, according to the BBC in 2003. Lighter skin meant economic success, such as getting jobs, acquiring greater confidence, and social acceptance. The newer marketing strategies of these companies not only suggested that whiteness equals success and social mobility, but also explicitly linked darker skin to a less social status and economic stagnation. Ads such as these and other forms of media that perpetuate such ideas further enforce racist and colorist behaviors in employers, among other people. And all of this is not just portrayal in the media that has been exaggerated or standards in the media that they're trying to perpetuate. They have basis in actuality, and it is unclear if this happened because of the media or the media does it because of this, but they're clearly interlinked. And so socioeconomic status is very, very clearly linked with your skin color, which is very colorist. As you can see in this graph from 2008, it uses terms such as light black, medium black, and dark black. And the darker your skin is, the lower your income is. And according to research, lighter skinned African Americans and Latinos earn more, complete more years of schooling, work in higher status occupations, live in more racially integrated neighborhoods because, and this was a separate research that showed that white people trusted people of color who had lighter skin more than they did people of color who had darker skin. And these people receive lighter prison sentences, win more political elections, and struggle less often with depression because obviously they are not being marginalized and persecuted as much as their counterparts who have darker skin are being. Colorism also directly affects the rate at which people are being employed because of a phenomenon known as the halo effect. Now, the halo effect is a psychological phenomenon that states that if you are attractive conventionally, people will perceive you as smarter and friendlier as well, even if you have given them no proof beyond just appearing attractive on the outside. And since attractiveness is a cultural construct and it's influenced by racial aesthetics, which have been established by colonialism, lighter skinned job applicants will benefit from the halo effect of physical attractiveness. And the relationship between skin color and perceptions of attractiveness are particularly important for women applying for jobs because, as sexist and misogynistic as it is, women are viewed as more important and more capable of doing a certain job if they look better, even if their job has nothing to do with their physical appearance, even if they're not applying for a modeling job or something. There is an unspoken job requirement of looking pretty for women for certain jobs, such as front office appearance jobs like restaurant hostess or office receptionist or air hostess, as well as we saw in the ad previously, where beauty may enhance job performance. And in these employment settings, skin color is likely to matter even more. Another way in which race and the way it affects our physical appearance affects employment and the rate of employment for people of color is hair, especially for women. Women's hair has been central to their social position in Western culture for centuries. And by meeting conventionally attractive hair norms, women are more able to more easily get and keep various jobs. And race directly impacts women's experiences with their hair because women of color tend to have, as explained before, not straight hair that is in afros or braids or dreadlocks, hair that is darker in color. And these women with these kind of hair seem to be displaying their minority status with their hair, and then they are therefore considered less credible in the workplace and discriminated against when hiring. Speaking of women in particular, we come to the issue of marriage, and marriage being used as a way of upward social and economic mobility, which this is very common for women in the global south because a lot of these women are not allowed to get an education or to get a job because of cultural or religious reasons or even economic reasons in general. And marriage is their only way of securing a stable income once their parents decide that they are of age that they should be married. And so consequently, in many Asian American families, mothers and granddaughters direct their daughters to stay out of the sun and use skin lightening creams in order to attain light skin and marriage marketability. And this is something I have experienced personally as a South Asian woman. I have been told not to play sports when I started getting into sports because it was tanning my skin. I've been told several different ways, natural remedies and creams to lighten my skin. I have been approached for marriage proposals as early as the age of 13 because at that time I had fairer skin than most other brown people, and all of this convinced me that beauty is equals to fair skin, which is obviously not true. Furthermore, light-skinned African American women are more likely to marry high-status spouses than those that are dark-skinned. So in conclusion, capitalism and economic gain reward adhering to Western beauty standards, and thus they ensure that we remain colonial despite our apparent independence.